we are teaching our son Aiden how to drive. Which basically means that we are putting our lives on the line so that you can stay safe on the roads. I remember the first time I handed him the keys, I thought, this might be it. This is how my story ends. And there were a few moments when my life actually flashed before my eyes. But thank God I lived to tell you the story tonight. Of course, the truth is, I had no control over the situation. No matter how hard I pressed on that imaginary brake on the passenger side, the car wouldn't slow down or stop. No matter how hard I moved my hands to the left or to the right, the car didn't move in the direction that I wanted to. And no matter how hard I closed my eyes and gripped the door handle, the car just did not avoid hitting the curb. It's a terrifying thing to realize that I'm not the one in control. And at best, all I can do is take a deep breath, mutter a silent prayer, and trust in God. And that feeling, that loss of control, and the humility that follows is the message that Yom Kippur is designed to send you. I just got off of my year in Israel. We moved back to Cleveland until we moved to Cincinnati in the fall. And when we got to Cincinnati in the fall, we had just a few weeks before we were going to be thrust into the ocean of High Holy Days. None of us had ever led a High Holy Day service on our own. And here, we were just weeks away from our first one. And so HUC decided that they were going to teach us everything that we need to know about leading a High Holy Day service in 2 weeks. It was a 2-week crash course, and one of my favorite professors, Rabbi Rick Saracen, who also was my thesis advisor, he led the charge. And he gave us articles and books. We talked about how to create service outlines. This doesn't just happen. You have to learn how to do this stuff. And it works really well, doesn't it? You can follow along beautifully. Okay, I learned this in rabbinical school. I can't tell you what else I learned, but I learned how to make a really good service outline. And we talked a lot about the liturgy and about the theology behind the liturgy. And I guess I was not really paying attention when I realized how freaking terrifying the liturgy is, right? How terrifying is Unatana Tokef? Who by fire, who by water, who by hunger, who by beast, who by thirst, and none of this is in any of our control. It's really scary stuff. Well, if I can tell you what I remember from that session, it's this. Rabbi Saracen turned to us and he said, if you remember one thing about leading High Holy Day services on Yom Kippur, remember this. Keep your head down when you're reciting Unatana Tokef. Don't look up. You'll terrify people. Can you imagine who by hunger, who by thirst, who by sword, who by beast? I've remembered that because the truth is I think that this prayer makes everyone nervous, even when my head is down. Which leads to the real question in the heart of this day is, why do we terrify our children and why do we terrify ourselves with this crazy liturgy? Let's face it, no one wants to read that list. Our Reform Machzor, if you look at the Rosh Hashanah one, really softens it up a little bit. It smooths over some of the rougher edges, but the words remain. Who shall live and who shall die? Who by fire, who by water, who by hunger, and who by thirst? By the way, I'm really thirsty right now. Most years, I keep my head down when chanting those words, but not just because they're uncomfortable. It's because they're unbearable. But this past year, unlike the many times that I have recited Unatana Tokef with relative certainty that I had nothing to worry about, I realized something profound. That maybe my name was on that list of who shall die. To put it bluntly, I could have died. And I'm not talking about handing Aiden the keys to my car. I had a major health scare, as we know. And if it wasn't enough the first time around, the second one was even more sobering. When I stood here a year ago, right here, I thought that I had made it through those gates that closed at Ne'ilah. I saw my name in the book of life. Everything that seemed totally out of my control was back in line until it wasn't. I remember sitting in my office on the eve of Simchat Torah, having just received the news that my first surgery was unsuccessful. And I felt like God had other plans for me. And I was terrified. Somehow, call it luck, whatever you want to call it, thanks to the skill of the greatest medical team on the planet, I beat the system again. That realization hit me hard last week here as I recited Unatana Tokef. I was reminded of the fragility of life and how little we can control. When we recited those words, it brought me right back to that evening in my office. Little did anyone know what I was going through, and I faked my way through a very joyous night, not bringing anyone else down with me. And yet last week, as I looked out at you, making sure not to make eye contact with you during Unatana Tokef, I felt something else. The words spoke differently to me, not as a threat, but as a wake-up call. Here's the heart of it. The point of Yom Kippur is to wake you up to the reality that you don't control time. It teaches you that no matter how carefully you schedule, manage, monitor, or negotiate, time is not yours to hold. You enter into it, but you do not control it. And yet there are entire industries built on convincing you otherwise, and for the most part, they really do work in getting your money. Anti-aging serums, diet fads, cryogenic freezing, you name it. Have you heard of a guy named Brian Johnson? Probably not. He's an American entrepreneur who has spent millions of dollars trying to hack his body so that he can live to 120 years old, which to me sounds like a miserable way to spend your life. Imagine focusing every ounce of your energy on squeezing out extra years, eating nothing but broccoli smoothies, and never sitting in the sun. Who wants to do that just for some extra years? What do those extra years mean when all you're focused on is extending your time? Yom Kippur teaches you that it's not a matter of how much time you have left, because you cannot control that. It's a matter of what you do with the time you have now. And that, my friends, is in your control. In Psalm 90 we read, "Teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom." I've used that verse often when I give eulogies of people who lived full, extraordinary lives. People who make me feel like I am doing absolutely nothing in my life compared to them. And at first it sounds like a math problem. You just count your days. But of course, the psalmist isn't teaching arithmetic. The verse isn't about numbers. It's about perspective. We gain wisdom not by pretending that we can stretch time, but by recognizing its limits. Every day is finite, which means every day is also precious. The psalmist is saying, don't count your days, make your days count. That's the shift that Yom Kippur demands of you. Instead of asking, how much time do I have? The real question is, what will I do with the time that I do have? That's where wisdom is born. I want to revisit a teaching that I've read many, many times over the years, and I've shared this a few years ago, and I want to bring it back now that my life is a little different than the last time I read this. It comes from Rabbi David Wolpe, who wrote the following: "Today you die." No one pronounces that horrible sentence on Yom Kippur, but it is true. Yom Kippur reenacts death. We wear white, like the shrouds we will one day be buried in. We do not eat, wash, or procreate. We are as corpses. We recite Unetane Tokef filled with graphic images of death. The lesson is clear. We live as if we have forever. Day by day, time dribbles through our fingers. Yom Kippur seeks to make our own death real to us, so that we will, in the words of the tradition, use each moment wisely. If we can believe, not intellectually, but in our guts and in our souls that we will die, perhaps we have a chance to really live. It's jarring, even blunt. But maybe we need that bluntness to break through our denial. Because most of the year we live as if death is something far off, something we don't need to face. We scroll, we plan, we fill the calendar, we push things off until someday. But Yom Kippur won't let you get away with that. It brings death right here into this sanctuary so that you can bring life into your living rooms, into your workplaces, into your relationships. That's what today is all about. It's not to scare you, it's to wake you up. And so let me circle back to those driving lessons with Aiden. At first, I looked at them as terrifying. Every turn was putting my life on the line. But then I realized something else. In order to get his license, he has to drive with us for 50 hours. That's 50 hours that we get to spend time together. No phones, no distractions, sure, an occasional scream, but mostly focused time. Good music when I'm controlling the radio, and some good laughs. That's the shift Yom Kippur invites you into. Not the panic of I can lose control at any moment, but the wisdom of look what I get to do with the time I've been given. Yom Kippur doesn't terrify us to punish us. It strips away illusions of control so that you can learn how to live. You don't get to decide how many days you have, but you get to decide how you fill them. And here's the thing, is that I cannot offer suggestions on how you should fill your time. That is up to you to decide. But what I can ask you to do is to enter into finitude with me and live this year like it actually matters, because it does. So as you come across the haunting words Unetane Tokef tomorrow, don't just keep your head down. Look inward. Take it seriously. Let it wake you to ensure that you will be written not just in the book of life, but in the book of a life fully lived each and every day in wisdom. Gamar Chatima Tova. May you be sealed for life, for love, and for blessing. Amen.